Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. On today's show, Duane Toews visits with Kevin Kester about the need for USDA regulations for fake meat products. Then enjoy this week's Kansas Soybean update. Next, Duane Toews and Jenny Burgess talk about her family farm and how blogging helps educate people and keep them connected to agriculture. Then it's this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update, and we'll end with Plain Talk with Kyle and Duane. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome to Farm Factor. Up first, Duane Toews visits with Kevin Kester to talk about fake meat products and the need for regulation.
Duane Toews joining you once again here on Ag AM in Kansas, and an opportunity to catch up with Kevin Kester, past president of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And Kevin, we think about society today is always looking for that new and exciting thing to grab a hold of, but there's some changes in the food industry that are concerning, particularly for cattlemen, but should be of everyone's concern.
That's right, and what we have coined fake meat is the issue I think you're referring to. So right now, there are plant-based fake meat products already on the market with the Impossible Burger and Beyond Burger and those types of things. What is not on the market yet, and in research and development, are lab-based, cell-cultured fake meat products. Those items might be coming out for commercial availability here in the United States in, I think, maybe 2 to 5 years, probably sooner than later. And so what we're after right now, why these lab-based products are being developed, is to make sure that we have a set of ground rules for ingredient authorization and oversight. Hopefully that's from the Food and Drug Administration. And we're advocating for the U.S. Department of Agriculture to have the authority and oversight on marketing and labeling claims, as well as the food safety inspection processes. So the good thing why we want USDA, especially on the labeling and the marketing, under USDA rules, all those things have to be pre-approved before the products hit the market. That's a big, big deal. And then essentially under the Food Safety Inspection Service at USDA, any cell-based lab-grown products would have to go into the same food safety inspection processes as conventionally grown meat. So those are the two things we're asking for to start off with.
We think about an interesting dynamic at a conference that you and I happened to be at, the discussion about a lack of acceptance of genetic technologies and modifications by many from a part of the food industry, yet appear to be willing to wholeheartedly embrace something that really is pretty foreign.
Those folks are having a really tough time mentally on how to do that, because I was at a hearing this past fall in Washington, D.C., a joint FDA and USDA hearing on lab-cultured meat products here in the U.S. And so you had all your anti-GMO activists who we're familiar with up there trying to figure out a way to support lab-grown products that may come out in the future. And they were struggling with it on how to deliver that message. So it's going to be interesting once we get far enough along in the process to see actually what comes out of a lab and how those processes are grown in a lab, to see whether those activists still fall into the support column on that.
Another thing that, from my perspective, and maybe you could address this, the term clean meat has been thrown out there by some that are backing that industry, which it appears as of late, a lot of the new things are using marketing ploys to try and influence consumers with falsehoods.
That's right. So that's a disparaging term. In fact, I think Memphis Meats, they're up the road from me in California, and they're in this world of research and development in laboratories for meat. And so they started using this term more than a year ago. And so we went to USDA and said, hey, this is a disparaging term. This company should not be using that term. And so USDA went to Memphis Meats and And the agreement was made by Memphis Meats. They came to the right decision to not use that term anymore, and they haven't. But there's other activist groups across the world that have picked that up since and are using it. In fact, we had a futurist presenter here at a forum I was at recently, and he even used the term clean meat. I challenged him on it, and he started blaming the United Nations for coming up with that and so forth. So we just need to keep being diligent and challenging unscientific-based claims.
Our thanks to Kevin Kester, past president, National Cattlemen's Beef Association, joining us here on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Duane. Folks, be sure to come back after these messages for this week's Kansas Soybean Update.
This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Dr. Sean Brotherson, professor and extension family science specialist at North Dakota State University, joins us. Dr. Brotherson, we've seen farmers go through so much this year that has put a lot of stress on them, which affects their health and well-being. You know, we sometimes forget about the importance of the health and wellness of that farm operator.
As we look at stress and its effects on individuals who are working in agriculture, I think it's really useful to step back and take a little perspective and think about the assets on your farm or ranch operation. Often you'll think about land, equipment, livestock, or crops. I mean, there's different things that you put among your assets. But overall, the most important asset on any farm or ranch operation is actually the health of the farmer or rancher and those working on the farm. And so because it's your most important asset, then it really should be a priority. And it's very important to pay attention to the signals that indicate you're experiencing stress. I liken it to thinking about the signals that pop up on the dashboard of a vehicle that say, hey, you need to pay attention. There's a little bit of stress occurring in your engine, and you need to get specific and find out what's going on. And so you can see physical symptoms that include things like headache or backache, digestive issues, or a lot of fatigue. You can see some emotional issues with having low mood, irritability, just feeling discouraged or wanting to withdraw from other people. And you may see some things in terms of behavior when you're having difficulty with sleep or trouble making decisions, or find yourself self-medicating with overuse of alcohol or other drugs. So those are things to pay attention to, and then you want to take steps that are going to be helpful in managing your health.
Because it's stress on one person, but if you have a family, that stress can spread out.
Stress tends to reverberate through the family. So you may be feeling financial pressures on your farm or ranch operation, and then that may reverberate into you're having health difficulties, or you're having more challenges communicating with people on your farm operation or members of your family. You'll find yourself trying to work longer and longer hours. That means you have less emotional energy for a spouse or for being a parent. And those relationships are very important. The farm is not more important than the family members on the farm. Family members can be a tremendous support during times of stress.
Dr. Sean Brotherson, professor and extension family science specialist at North Dakota State University, joins us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay with us after the break for more Farm Factor as Duane visits with Jenny Burgess.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here, the time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about employee safety and work comp coverage. On your farm, do you ask your friends to come help? Are they considered employees or neighbors helping neighbors? Did you know that you can be held responsible just as if it's a work comp accident? Give me a call. We can discuss. 316-945-6733.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now we learn about Burgess Hill Farms with Duane Toews and Jenny Burgess.
Duane Toews joining you once again here on Ag AM in Kansas. And an opportunity to catch up with Jenny Burgess, talking about your part in a conference that really talked about integration and looking at agriculture from a really, really big perspective. Jenny, share with our viewers and listeners a little bit about your operation and what you're trying to accomplish.
So we are a first-generation farm in south central Kansas, and we cover about 2,000 acres dry land, wheat, corn, soybeans, and milo, and it's all dry land. We are trying to just keep surviving every year. I think everybody can agree that we're all trying to do our best. But trying to build a business from the ground up with no cash has been quite interesting. So it's a opportunity that happened to come along through another business that we had. A retired farmer saw our ambition and saw our work ethic and thought that was two good values to have and starting this business. So
talk a little bit about your husband, not from the U.S., has its own challenges maybe that it provided as well.
Right. So he's originally from England, southern England. He is about an hour south of London. He basically got out of there. The population was too much, over regulations, and there is no way to farm in there without inheriting. So he came over through Ohio State program, through the J1 training visa, and got placed with a local harvest crew in Alden. And I happened to be the waitress at the time, and his first day in the States was my first day at the restaurant. So when you're 15 and you're hearing 20 different guys coming in with 20 different accents, it's quite mind-boggling at the moment, but you learn, and we became really, really good friends. We're still friends. But at times we have our moments. But we started dating 3 years later and started our life and our family and our farm together, and I wouldn't have gone back.
I know because I follow you on social media. This fall has been a challenge. It was for many growers across the country, Kansas in particular. But perseverance, you do what you have to do?
Yes, and I would say last year was our limit. We really discussed on, what's our future, because do we want to keep doing this? The farm was running us and we weren't running the farm. How big do we want to get? Labor's an issue. We all know that very well, that it's hard to get local people to work on the farm. But this fall, I tell you, we started out dry, and all of a sudden the rain cloud started right when we were getting ready to plant wheat, and it just didn't stop.
So talk a little bit about your online presence and things you're doing to tell that story.
So I started out with my blog, and basically because I looked at my children getting into the school system and saw the absolute disconnect. Even in a rural community that I graduated in, and the parents and the mothers going through the grocery store and deciding and looking at labels, and it just baffled me, the disconnect. What's outside their window, they have no idea what it is. So I thought, why not show a window into my life? We are starting out. We are learning what works. We are learning failures too. And they can learn along with us. And I have really had good positive feedback from local itself, and we follow you guys all the time, and absolutely amazing what you do, and so sorry to hear about the weather lately. You know, we hear that constantly, even at church, people that don't farm. So that is the main reason I did it, was because of my children and their generation, and the parents that I talk with in the school system too.
So has it provided an opportunity for you to discuss agriculture and food production with some folks maybe in more urban areas?
Yes. So I have, just within Kansas Farm Bureau itself, they've taken me to Kansas City or Wichita, and we've gotten to do local events and talk to local chefs and things like that. But I really think my biggest impact is locally, because I think that's where we need to start, because those are the people that we live around every day.
All right, thanks to Jenny Burgess joining us on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Duane. Come back after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update.
I dug trees by hand for years and years and years. In the process, I wore out my rotating cuff. But when I learned about this process, I thought if there's a way to get rid of this pain, then I wanted to do it. So we did it, and it worked. I'm not going to go out and dig trees with a shovel anymore, but I can do the things that I want to do now.
As fourth-generation farmers themselves, Heinen Brothers Ag Service understands the risk and rewards of farming. So when it comes to quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia, call Heinen Brothers Ag today, 800-760-4964.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Farm Bureau update.
Today we are talking about planting decisions. Lots of information to go over, which we will share. We've got some stuff on a website.
I do want to touch a little bit on the market facilitation program. It was newly announced. The key couple of things are they added a few other crops. Normally we look at what I call Farm Bill Title I commodity programs. They've added alfalfa to that. Sorghum is listed, so we don't know if that means sorghum silage also. And a lot of other smaller crops like lentils are involved in that. And kind of one of the key things is payments are not going to be dependent on the crops you plant, but they're basically going to be a county level rate.
Okay.
Based on the county. So it will be paid on the, let me see, I'll just read it here. Instead, the payment is based on a single county rate multiplied by a farmer's total plantings to those crops in 2019. But your total payment eligible plantings cannot exceed 2018 plantings of those same crops. Bottom line is, you kind of want to make sure that list of crops you're planting as many acres this year as you did last year. Now that opens up a lot of questions, because what if I'm in western Kansas and I've got fallow? What if last year I fallowed quite a bit and now I've got more plantings? I won't get paid for those. Or if last year I planted a lot of crops and this year I have a lot of fallow. So there's some mixed, some unanswered questions. Farm Bureau has written to USDA. We want to get some clarification on how fallow will be impacted, on how they're going to look at sorghum, whether sorghum silage is part of that or whether sorghum hay is part of that. We need more clarification. We haven't got that clarification.
Stay with us. We'll be back after the break with Plain Talk.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways. Of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we're glad to answer it and work with you.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Welcome back. Now let's see what Kyle and Duane are up to today on Plain Talk.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer with Plain Talk, with the guy who's going to explain to me what this means. You can't put a mirror on the table and eat your own good looks. Now, what's that mean, Duane? You ever hear that one? I've never heard that one. It appears to be sage old wisdom.
That's an implication of don't get too high on your own horse and thinking too much of yourself.
Doesn't have anything to do with horses.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with horses. That's just old cowboy wisdom.
Yeah, all right. Don't get too high on your looks because you can't earn a living.
You're not going to do anything for you.
And this is the reason we spend most of our time in radio. Yeah.
Talking on a microphone. Your fact or fiction question of the day, Kyle Bauer. In Tudor times, every sailor carried his own bag of pepper. Fact or fiction?
Well, first of all, I don't know what a Tudor time is. What? Well, I do, but we can't talk about
Tudor
that.
Time.
Tudor, what in Tudor times?
Every sailor in Tudor times, must have been a long time ago,
It must have been a time in history.
Carried his own bag of pepper. Fact or fiction?
Well, there was a time that pepper was very, very expensive, and that was what was traded. The spices were traded between China and Europe.
Like money.
Yeah, well, no, it was
even more coveted than that.
It was a very, very expensive thing to have. So I don't think you just give it to any Tom, Dick, and Tudor. I'll say fiction.
It says it's true.
It's true.
Yeah.
In Tudor times,
you
got paid. Maybe you got paid in pepper.
Well, you might.
And then it was up to you when you got back to sell it.
I don't know if pepper is a good thing for the digestive tract or not.
And you're asking me or telling me?
Well, I'm curious what your thoughts are, because here's my analogy. There are some people that have a digestive ailment of sorts that something passing through would not be good if it doesn't digest.
Right. Too fast. It's going through too fast.
Pepper doesn't I don't think pepper can digest. When you use the analogy of when you have a small leak in a radiator, what do?
I don't know.
Have you never dumped pepper in it?
No.
Really?
You dump it in the radiator?
Dump pepper in a radiator and
then it'll plug it up?
It'll plug.
And you're saying that you eat pepper, it'll slow down your digestive
tract?
tract?
I'm just saying it doesn't digest. I'm not saying that it's going to stop you from...
Well, you're really confusing me on this whole... Okay, so you're asking me if pepper, as in black pepper or any kind of peppers.
Black pepper.
Black pepper, if it has anything to do with digestion.
Yeah.
Do you consider black pepper hot when you eat it, like you would?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I will continue. I guess I can speak more clearly about, let's say, jalapenos, because I never put so much black pepper on food
that it gets hot.
It's more of a subtle thing, and I would say there's a number of people that will testify that if they eat jalapeno peppers, it doesn't slow things down.
No.
It speeds things up. So I can't see why black pepper would be any different than jalapeno peppers.
Your son-in-law uses white pepper frequently.
He does?
When he's cooking on a grill or smoking
I didn't even know there was white pepper.
I was going to ask you. Obviously, you haven't paid attention.
Are you sure that's not salt?
No. No, he said
he just told you it was white pepper?
It was white pepper. I've never heard of such a thing. Now I'm thinking that I need to get some because, of course, your son-in-law is pretty handy when it comes to putting stuff on the smoker.
He's a good cook. But
he can kind of make a sow's ear taste like filet mignon.
Well, I agree, but I also can tell you can't believe everything that kid says.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.